Mr. Allen?
I have no idea. He's not under there.
And fall off the chair now. We have special guest Rose Har from Keystone Collections. Did you want to speak or answer questions or what?
I came, thank you for inviting me to your meeting, and I'm here to answer questions regarding work location under Act 32. And she doesn't want to know.
No, she turned it down.
I'm open for questions. I understand that some of you had questions regarding businesses that come into your township to work.
And I sent you 2 questions.
Yes.
From a resident that you said you were prepared to answer. So.
And I brought some documentation from the Act. All of the work location with businesses and mainly construction businesses that come in and they work. What they have done under Act 32 is you must be in that position, you must be at that work location for at least a quarter to...
Full-time or?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yes. All of this, it's very complex because in the past, no one had to withhold earned income tax. Now, under the Act, earned income tax must be withheld by all employers. And there is the rule that you must have your work location for the non-resident rate and wherever your employee lives as the resident rate. Every employer is required to have certificate of residency forms on each of their employees. It's actually an addendum to the W-4. When you're doing the payroll, both rates are there and they're on the DCED, and you take the 2, and whichever is the higher is what the employer is required to withhold. Now, if that employee works in an area that has a non-resident tax and he resides in an area where there is no resident tax, then that 1%, which Kennett has a 1% non-resident tax, would stay in your township. But if they live somewhere where there is an equal tax, it is collected through the township, sent to the collector, and then it is non-res out to where they live. So
can we ask questions as you go along? Is that okay?
Please do.
Could you define employer for us? What is the definition of an employer? You said the employer must have been, I guess, operation for at least a quarter, right?
Well, an employer is the company that is responsible for their employee and all their withholding. Now, where the employer has a facility is I think what you're looking for.
Yes,
work
I was the one who
location.
I asked you the question about what constitutes a work site.
That it's a the work site, they have to be doing business there for at least a quarter, for 1 full quarter.
But does that mean it's a construction trailer, a project management trailer?
No. Each company has a corporate office, and they have to define where that corporate office is. And then they have to have the certificate of residencies for each of their employees.
Okay. Well, let's just take that one step back.
Okay.
A company, a developer, has a corporate office in Malvern,
Okay.
outside of the township, outside the county, in the county. They have a crew that comes over here and builds for 3 years of huge housing development. They have a construction trailer that has their company name on it, on site.
From which they are
spreading out their workspace
Right.
and bringing people in and talking to them and doing all sorts of things in this office away from
Within the
home.
township, that the township should be able, in my opinion anyway, collect EIT from the contractors and the true employees.
If they are working at that site for more than 3 months,
Then we can.
then their tax dollars of their non-resident would stay in your township.
So that project manager and the construction manager on that site he has the primary responsibility for contractors that come in to hand each one of their employees a form that says, where do you live?
That happens at the time of employment.
Well, the contractors, the construction manager, he's the total manager. He's gonna hire a roofing guy to come in. The roofing guy has his own employee. We can't,
No.
the EIT won't go against us.
No, not unless it takes them more than 3 months to put that roof on.
But so another question, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No.
Another question on the point you were just making. So if somebody's working in the township for 3 months, then they have to pay the 1%.
Yes.
What if their home base is in another township that has earned income tax? What happens then?
The money will come through the township, or however that business chooses to pay. An employer has the option under Act 32 to make monthly payments or to pay quarterly. And the difference in those is just the way they report. If they choose to if it's a large construction company in Melbourne, and they send different employees all over, they then have that, wherever that payroll is done is where the corporate office is. But if they know that they have 50 employees working in Kennett Township, then they have to withhold the higher of the two amounts. Kennett Township's non-resident rate,
Which is 1.25%.
No, not
1%.
non-resident rate is 1%.
And we don't split that with the
No.
Yeah,
school.
Yes, we do.
yeah, the 1% we spoke.
Not for non-resident. Non-resident tax is for municipalities only.
That's why it's so important for us to focus on this.
School districts are not,
I thought they'd still get their.
no, only for the residents, they get their 0.5%, but not for non-residents.
Okay.
Non-resident
Well, then
tax,
we really only get a 0.5% from non-residents, right?
pardon me?
We only really get a 0.5% then,
No, you
don't we?
get the full 1%,
That's interesting.
yes.
Yeah, that's
For
important.
residents, we only get, for
Right.
residents, we get,
We split it.
yeah.
Plus the quarter, yeah.
So let me focus
Oh,
on.
wait a minute, I don't think I got an
One at a
answer to my
time.
question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm
Save the space.
I'm sorry, so,
Clarify Bill's question.
so, my question was, if they work in our township for over 3 months, but yet their home base is in a township that has the earned income tax, in essence, we don't get it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
for example, a company like Wilkinson Builders, who has, built big developments here for over a couple years. If New Garden Township has earned income tax, then we don't get their earned income tax.
Right. If they employ someone who lives in Chancellor Township, they have no earned income
Right.
tax, then you would get 1% for
Right.
them.
Okay.
How about if the person lives in Hotel Delaware?
You cannot, they pay non-resident, absolutely.
They
Out of
pay
state,
non-resident.
yes. Yes,
You have an independent contractor that's just one person, that's an employer also?
yes.
But that independent contractor has to be on the site at least 90 days. If they finish their job in 89 days, we have tax from them.
Right.
Okay, so let me stay with the distinction on employer and independent contractor.
Okay, go ahead.
First of all, I assume that Keystone uses the standard definitions that the IRS uses as to whether you're an employer or whether you're an independent contractor.
Yes, everything, under the Act, and actually, they, under Act 166, which was a few years back, they defined, they follow the same definitions so that, to make everything a little clearer.
Okay. So now we're going to go to Bill's question and Lisa's question. And we have Wilkinson Builders, who is the general. He's got a whole bunch of employees by IRS standards, but he also has subcontractors that come in. But because there's a whole lot of buildings being worked on, it's going to take more than 3 months to put the roofs on them. So he has a subcontractor doing roofs, and it's going to take more than 3 months to do it. The subcontractor roofer is not responsible through Wilkinson because that is a
Partnership.
contractor agency relationship,
Right.
Independent contractor relationship. It's not an employee relationship. On the other hand, that roofer is going to have to do his own withholding with his employees because he's going to be there, his company is going to be there for more than 3 months. And even if what he has is a trailer or something that he can come into, but he's there, he's on site for 3 months. Therefore, he's responsible and his employees are responsible.
He is responsible, yes, whoever.
For his employees.
That is correct.
Yes.
The payroll, is up to the employer.
So what type of jurisdiction does the township have to force this contract roofer to fill out the paperwork to let us know that we have residency certificates and that we have the names of the people, we know that he's going to be on site for a year installing roofs? How can the township force that employer to comply with the EIT?
That, I do not know what you have in place for businesses that come into your township to work.
Not much.
Well,
Probably.
that's.
But we've never addressed
Building
this.
permit.
Well, that's, yeah.
Ask it another way. Does your company have a model process that you suggest to small townships to manage this type of situation?
We really, we can only enforce the ordinances that you have in place.
What should we be doing then?
Yeah, that's
That
the
we're
real
not
question.
doing.
That's the question.
You would need to have permits.
We have permits.
We had building permits.
You have the
We have
the building?
a list of them every month.
Okay, do you send them over, to us?
No.
To see if they're, and do you, I can leave business
them.
packages?
That's what she's saying.
Yeah, no, Kathy just started doing that because you and I had talked about that when we set up this meeting, but prior to that, we hadn't been doing that.
Okay.
But there's no reason why we couldn't.
Oh, no, we absolutely can every month.
Yeah.
But does then the building permit have to identify more precisely who's working? That is, the name and the contractors and all their names? Does that fall out of that?
Well, what we have, that every month we create a spreadsheet that lists every building permit number, who applied for what address, what it's for. None of our building permits that are filled out, they show the contractor, but they don't show all the employees working at the site.
Yeah, we don't have that.
I would think one other complication you have is you don't know whether it's going to be 89 days or 120
Right.
days when you start.
Well, the majority of our building permits are not long-term unless it's big development coming.
So you have a big development coming up, right?
Yes, so that will be.
But then go back to the question that what do you need to supply Keystone to give you the power to implement EIT on the employers and the contractors?
Right.
We don't need it.
Well, you need a list of something, don't you, to, so you can,
You're asking what is the procedure, not the authority.
well, I guess I'm still asking for the authority. What if the guy tells you to get out of my hair, I don't wanna see you?
Under the act.
Exactly.
Keystone.
And I'll tell you why.
No, under the act.
This guy over here?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because this happened to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, or do we need an ordinance to do this? I'm doing a building. Building takes more than 90 days, and because this happens. I come along to get my occupancy permit. Building inspector says, your income tax paid, show me proof. Where do I get that authority? Because like I said, it happened to me. I had to show proof that I did that.
But can we really do that?
Well, townships in Chester County do it, but I don't know how they do it.
Jeff?
Is there any township that is doing this now that we could call and ask how they're doing it? We don't need to reinvent the wheel.
No, we don't. I think the
I'll
one.
call around.
I really,
I have a list of all the townships in Chester County on an email list. Maybe I should just email them all and ask them what they do.
Well,
Joe Duffy will be glad to give you the example of a township in Delaware County that was right on the edge of where the refineries were, where they've been doing that for years.
Okay, well, they're on my list.
Oh, they are? Okay.
I have Chester County, Delaware County, so.
Well, it seems to me that this is something the supervisor has to sit down and define, but it seems to me that we can, when somebody comes in and makes application, we give them a form that says this is what you have to fill out for Keystone. Keystone could give us a form, I assume, and they would have to do it. And if it turns out that they're not going to be there for more than 3 months, then they can clarify their overpayment or whether they need to make payment. I mean, you normally, I guess, depends how big you are, but you pay quarterly. You know, I don't think everybody's required to pay every month or every week. So if we mandated that they had to do that in order to get the building permit, just one more piece of paper they have to fill out, then it seems to me the problem then goes to Keystone, making sure that they follow up on it.
Seems to me there's an easy loophole here for the general contractor.
Yeah.
The general contractor realizes that he's going to have to impose EIT on any contractor there for more than 90 days. So I have a list of 10 plumbing contractors. I hire the first one for 60 days, let him go, hire a new plumbing contractor for the next 60 days. He's avoiding EIT payments by shuffling contractors.
But the general is not responsible for the contract
I know,
anyway.
but so the first plumber is not responsible
It's
for
even
anything.
easier in that bill, he can just change people, he doesn't have to change contractors.
There you go.
what you're gonna find out is that these contractors are paying, and yes, they are, and they are following Act 32. There are high fines to the employer that they would have to pay if they were not withholding this tax properly. The only issue that you're looking at is if you know that the job, that they're going to have the same employees on that job, then the work location must change. Many of the contractors, and many of them for 2 years, attended seminars and had to change the way they were doing their payrolls because of work location. So a lot of the large contractors have addressed this, and I think you will probably find that out once you try to monitor it. So basically, I think you're going to need to have a relationship and a meeting with the general contractor. And
Well, let me go to that for a second. Is it that the general contractor is on site for 3 months, not that his employees, I mean, whether you roll employees or not doesn't matter as long as you're in there for 3 months or more, correct?
well, it would depend on what type of company it is and what what they were doing. I mean, a lot of these companies, you know, they come in for 3 or 4 days to wire the building, and then they're gone. And someone else comes in to do the, you know, the drywall, and then they're gone. So,
If they work for the general,
right, if they work.
then that would apply. But if they're subcontractors,
It doesn't.
it probably does not apply.
No,
Right, but
and
the
they're
guy,
gonna-
the management on site, which is typically the general contractor and maybe a couple of supervisors, those 3 or 4 people, they're gonna pay our EIT.
As long as they do not live in an area
Okay,
that
that has-
already imposes it.
Okay.
What if they live, say, in Wilmington, Delaware, or they lived in Delaware, the city of Wilmington, and paid the local tax in Wilmington?
Then they will get a credit.
Yeah.
If they're,
So they would still have to pay
they
Kennett,
would
and
still
then,
pay.
but then they'd be probably paying Delaware as well, or?
No, they would have to, their employer would, no matter where they lived, if they lived in Wilmington, they would have to withhold the non-resident rate, and that is the money that you would get to keep. And then, when they did their taxes in Delaware, they would take a credit for what they
Taxes
paid.
paid.
So,
To
so,
PA.
so if they actually lived in the city of Delaware, Delaware loses, Wilmington loses that money comes to us?
Yes, just as we, someone who lives here and travels outside to work, they pay
Where
the
they
tax
work.
where they're working.
So if you lived here and work in
You
the
would get a
city of
credit.
Wilmington, then I think their tax is higher than ours.
Wilmington?
They're paying-
That's right.
It's 1.25% of the city.
So it's
for
the same
employees.
as ours for all if you
So it's
lived in
same,
the
yeah.
township, right?
It is actually not where you're living, it is where you're working in PA. That is the work location.
Although it's different in Delaware, because if you live in the city, but you work outside of the city limits, Wilmington's still gonna get your payroll tax at 1.25%. If you live outside of the city limits and work in the city limits, you're gonna pay the 1.25%.
Well,
Anyway,
you will, yes.
Does
in Delaware.
Does Keystone have a help desk to answer questions like this on
They
an
have a
ongoing basis?
They have a really good website. I was looking at
Thank
it.
you. It has all of these
The
questions.
frequently asked questions.
Yeah,
So
no,
what
and I
what would
follow
you
the
need from us,
DCC.
though? If, when we were talking about building permit lists, what would you need from us on a monthly basis so that you would be able to check if they're paying the earned income tax?
What we would need to know is where this company's home base is. If the company's home base is not in Kennett, that's where the money is gonna go.
Okay.
Under the Act, wherever the employer is where the money, is the county that the money goes to. So, it just depends, if it's a company that's in Delaware County, even though the tax is withheld for the work location, if they are a monthly filer, they can choose to pay one company, and they can choose which company they want to pay. So that puts another twist into it.
I'm a little bit confused about the enforcement issue. I understand that we need to do something to initiate the process. And it seems to me, without first having the benefit of other people having already invented this wheel, that if we link together a building permit and a UNO permit together, so you know they're on notice from the beginning and they can't do anything at the end until they take care of it, that probably takes care of our responsibility. But I'm assuming that if it turns out that the employer has not been withholding the money and sending it on because they wouldn't send it to us, they would send it to you directly.
Well,
And
they
you
could-
would be the one that would enforce that.
They could send it to Keystone, they could send it to Berkheimer, they could send it to Lancaster, they could send it to Berks County. They could send that money, if they were a monthly filer, there are only 19 collectors left in the state.
But they wouldn't send it to Kennett Township.
No.
It's
Oh, no,
possible,
we never
if,
would.
no,
Right.
if.
So we would never know whether it was being paid or not. You would be the one knowing whether it was paid or not. And as long as we gave you notice that they're on the list,
Yes, and
then you would follow up on it.
we could, if they are a company that files with Keystone, we could check to see if they paid.
Right.
We could contact, you know, Berkheimer and ask them if it was, that they filed with them, and we would see it come through our monthly distributions. Under Act 32, we have to disperse money within 30 days. So if there's a company that is filing with Keystone and the money belongs over in a county that Berkheimer is collecting for, we disperse to them monthly and they reciprocate back to us. So the laws are very strict on that. What you put in place, we will help to monitor, but I think you're going to find out that these companies most of them are compliant at this point. The large companies, you know, they came to many seminars, brought their payroll people. Most of them do their payroll through the big companies, and they're set up and they know what they're required to do. But the bottom line is these companies have to have a certificate of residency, and they have to determine work location.
So is that something we should attach, a form we should attach to the building permit application, a certificate of residency, and they fill it out and we keep one on file?
No, you cannot have one of them on file.
It's
A
for each
certificate of-
employee,
It's
not the
for
company.
their
No.
employees. It would be
Yeah.
like you having their W-4. A certificate of residency is an addendum to the W-4.
I say, but shouldn't we have something on file about who the general contractor is? Is this all collected on the building permit?
It is.
How many employees they're gonna have?
They don't tell us that.
So,
But
we're
do we
missing
care?
maybe a piece of information right there.
All we want to know is who the general is.
I know, but
It's the general's responsibility to be following up on it, not us.
So-
That's my question.
okay, so do we trust the general contractor that he's gonna monitor this 90-day time period?
We're going to monitor it.
How?
Hire another officer.
Well, that's
Yeah.
part of it, that is part of it, the borough does
Now,
this.
we expect them
That's part of
to,
it.
I would think that we would expect them to register when they come in.
Okay, what do we?
And then if it turns out that it's not over 90 days, they can work out the details with Keystone. We don't have to worry about it.
Okay, I'm just wondering, what information do we need so we have enough information to ask the right questions of this general contractor?
I'm gonna send out a mass email tonight to all the townships and ask them what they do.
That's a good idea.
And then, hopefully, they have some ideas as to what, you know, what works, and maybe we can put the same thing into effect.
If we're missing $50,
And
there's
then
no
I'll
sense setting up a process. Big deal, we lose $50.
But we don't
If
know.
it's $5,500, then we may want to get more involved in this, you know.
Well, it's 1% of the
The payroll.
employees. Gross.
Yeah, the gross, right,
So that becomes an important issue.
right.
If they're a non-resident, we get 1% of it.
Only if they do not
Have,
have earned income where they live.
Right,
Or-
I understand.
Or if they have an
Understand.
earned income that is only maybe 0.5%, you would get to keep 0.5%.
The difference between
The
whatever it
difference,
is and
yeah.
1%.
see, that's the part I'm having difficulty with, because we're putting enforcement on the general contractor, and if this guy's not reputable, and you know, hopefully they all are, but if he's not, he says, oh, they all live in.
Enforcement's right there. The general contractor
Will you
just
know
has to
all the
report.
list of employees where the employees live? All the
They
contractors?
have to, when they file with us, under the law, they have to provide work location as number one. They have to provide the name, social security number, the PSD code of where the employee lives.
Okay.
And then they have to withhold, under the law, the higher of the two rates.
Okay, sorry, go ahead, John.
Clarification on one thing, and Scudder, listen, this is the general contractor, but what about the subcontractor and his employees?
They're both the same situation.
They're the same,
It's all
The
the same.
subcontractor is
If
responsible
something-
for his employees.
Right.
Mhm.
The general is responsible for
So
his
then
employees.
Lisa has to know the general and the subs,
Right,
Mhm.
right.
all the subs.
Correct.
But boy, I'll tell you, drywall subs come and go. And, you know, and framing subs come and go. So, you know, this could be a big bureaucratic process for the township, or for you, or maybe both of you.
Not for them.
That's why they pay them the big
That's
bucks.
what they do.
True, okay. But
They don't.
I don't know that we have enough, how do we get the right information so that we feel comfortable that everybody's doing their job as far as enforcing collection of PIT?
Bill, if they give us a certification that they are registered with Keystone, what else do we need?
Okay, so when they hire an Amish framing crew, that is a collection of 5 people that happen to know each other and have some carpentry skills, they're not registered anyplace.
Yes, they are.
Let
Let me suggest a piece of the puzzle that's missing, and I'm sorry I didn't think about it,
Huh?
Lisa. The building inspector right now is a contractor. He's a contract building inspector. But ours happens to be Richard Hicks, who works for one of the Bradfords, maybe east or west. And I know he's out on the job to see who's there regularly. But he also has an issue with, doesn't have an issue, he does it and he takes the heat for it. He won't issue that occupancy permit until he is assured that the property tax is being paid. And since he's also a township supervisor in another township nearby, he's very interested in this. That's probably the guy we missed in all this. We already have the tool here.
Buildings.
We don't know whether we're telling him to do that. It's the building inspector, because police are sometimes called to an issue when the building inspector says, you're not getting this permit because you haven't given me the paper I've been asking for. So
Okay.
it's a combination of things, but I even think the road crew at some point, we used the road crew to slow down burglaries years ago. We told them, open your eyes, this is what you're looking for. So there's the guys also are out there. So we need to have, after we set this thing up, we need to have one of our staff meeting, Lisa, we need to bring up what we want to do here, but I think it's a combination thing. But I think Richard Hicks was the guy we probably should have had here.
Well, I talked to Rich the other day because I had some questions about Victoria Gardens, and he's only focused on a couple of things of a building. Foundation, plumbing, HVAC, and you guys apparently hire an electrical inspector for electricity.
The contractor does.
Okay. And because I was interested in the building exterior, where Victoria Gardens has a problem. He says, no, we don't touch that because the state doesn't require us. So he knows nothing about what crew came in and do the framing, what crew came in to do the Tyvek wrapping, what crew came in to do the stone or stucco work. He has no idea about that. And so how are you going to keep up to speed with, well, were those contractors then registered with Keystone, or were they from the hinterlands of Lancaster and nobody knows of them?
Kath, you had something?
Yeah, again, I go back to, let's find out if anybody's doing it. If no one's
Yeah.
doing it, then we don't worry about it because it isn't doable. But if someone's doing it successfully, let's just steal their method and use
Sure.
it.
That's
We clearly in this room, we don't know.
Yeah, we know.
John?
I'll build on Chief's suggestion. On this upcoming Kennett Bikeway project, we are hiring an inspector, and we're paying them $80-some thousand. They see the job every day. They can certainly know who's working on that job, and that job will last more than 90 days. So I guess we have some candidates there, whoever the contractors are.
At Gilmore, I know we fill out those forms that you were talking about, because I get them, and I have to
And
send
she
them
happens
to
to
our.
work for the inspecting company.
well, we don't have inspectors anymore, but you get the form, you fill it out, the employee gives it to you, so
Right.
if the employee doesn't fill it out right, I mean, then,
They're not compliant.
yeah. But that's all you can go by, you can't, I mean, what are you gonna do beyond that? I mean, I'm pretty sure we know
That's
who
your
our people
problem.
are.
Yeah. That's some other person's problem.
Anybody else have anything, or time to go in short? Jeff?
One quick, easy question with no controversy, hopefully. Technology has advanced, but tax collection doesn't seem to have advanced quite as fast. Is it possible to pay with our bank pay? You know, we pay by, not by mail, but, you know, online payment with our bank, not giving you our account information, and just put the account number in the memo. When you get that check from my bank, then you'll credit my taxes.
He's talking about paying his taxes.
Pay my taxes online like I pay every other bill I got.
For
You know-
Keystone you're talking about.
Well, yeah, Keystone. Chester County lets us do that now. You can use your online payment.
I'm pretty sure we have online payment.
No, you do, but then you charge me for it. My bank doesn't
Yeah.
charge me.
That's right.
I've got to go on and give you all my
Oh, I see. You
information.
want to see if your bank can pay
Yeah.
it.
Right.
Well, no, my bank just sends you a check. It
Right.
has my name on it, my address, it would have my account number.
Bill pay.
Electronic check.
Yeah. It's
Well,
bill
if you're set up with them, yeah.
pay. Bill pay, yeah.
Otherwise, you get a physical check. I don't know if Keystone is set up with my bank. But if they are, you would get an electronic payment. Otherwise, you would get a check,
I know we get electronic payment.
Okay.
other than the ones on your website. Your website has the ability to do that.
Our website, I mean, anyone could pay electronically, yes.
Don't want to use your website, because you charge me for it. My bank doesn't charge me, I just want to send you money. I want to pay my taxes. But I've talked to 2 other people in this room, and when we get the bill, we schedule immediately. Otherwise, I worry about it for 2 months that I'm going to be late, because I got to walk it to the bank or mail it to you special. So, can you accept a payment from my bank? With,
I don't believe that we can.
It's too-
You want your bank to deposit directly into our account.
No, what Jeff's saying is that if you're registered with the banks, like Wells Fargo,
Right.
the big bill payers,
Mm-hmm.
then they're gonna send you an electronic, there's gonna be an electronic transaction. If they don't know you, and I put down your address, you're just gonna get a regular check. And so you should be able to accept that.
with my account number on it.
Right. Just like I wrote the check,
It's no different.
except the coupon's not,
You're not going to get the
the
coupon.
coupon's not gonna be enclosed.
Identify your account number, you're
Yeah,
good to go.
right.
Well, we've had a lot of, and we do have online bank payment that people, the banks send us checks.
Okay?
I do understand what you're
Okay,
saying.
and you can accept those.
And when we do accept them, as long as they're identified properly, if they are not,
Perfect, thank you.
then yes.
You got a problem.
Yep, no problem. Thank
In
you.
that regard, your website is so much better than what we struggled with that Berkheimer.
Berkheimer, yeah.
What a mess. I
Right.
never knew where to,
We,
I'd like this.
we try
I
to
like your
update it
website
constantly.
For my knowledge here.
Okay, thank you,
I
Rose.
brought some paperwork
Okay.
for anyone who would like to read about work locations.
I think we just need your phone number.
Home, if possible.
Well, Rose, after I find out what other townships are doing, I'll call you to let you know what I find out, and
Okay.
see what you think. Because ultimately, we'll have to work with you to
Yeah.
put any process.
Like I said, it starts with your ordinances and, what you are requiring your contractors to do. And then from there, we'll work with you.
Okay.
I mean, we monitor businesses every day, to maybe there's, something that's not, there are businesses who are not paying, and we have a non-compliance department, so if we know that, but what you may find out when you start getting this information, you may find out that they are set up already with one of us, either quarterly or monthly.
Okay.
And then with that, we can spot check to make sure that everything is being handled. But if you know someone's gonna be in here for a long time, I think you should probably be able to establish it as work location.
Okay.
Okay?
Likewise, Mr. Nail or John gonna do it?
Okay, good. I had given Lisa earlier today copies of
Thank you.
copies of what John and I are going to talk about. The first subject is let me get my phone out so I remember what we're doing, is the bikeway project. You want to go over it, John?
I just want to highlight the items we covered in this little report and see if you have any questions. This just brings you up to date over the last few months. The Kennett Bikeway project, again, that's the shoulder improvement project from Hamilton down south of Mendenhall. We got together with PennDOT people and went out for bids for the construction inspection services, and that was a lot of procedural stuff. Typically, that would be 15% of the construction cost. We got 8 bids. We analyzed them and selected Gilmore. Then, based on qualifications, then we went to Gilmore and got a technical and price proposal. It came in at $82,000 and some dollars, which is under the nominal or normal $96,000. So Gilmore gave us a good price. Besides, we felt they were among the top of the qualified people that bid.
Part of the savings is the fact that they're located here, where some of the other companies would have to travel and rent a trailer to have at the site. So
Then we discovered one other thing. They call it the CCE, categorical exclusion. And to be honest, both Tom and I have tried to understand what that really means, but it has to do with environmental clearances and so forth.
essentially it means that we get a waiver so we don't have to do the detailed environmental evaluation that's required. For example, the Route 52 extension costs $500,000. But since our work is mainly taking place, well, it is taking place within the right-of-way, established right-of-way, there are no wetlands, pendy sites, things like that. It was only good for 3 years, so we had to reapply, and then that's been approved.
Okay. The ultimate goal of this contract that we had with Urban Engineers was to get an approved PS&E, and that's now in the hands of PennDOT. They're doing their final review. Urban has done all their work. In fact, they finished it last summer. And it's been in this mode of PennDOT review ever since. That reauthorization of the CCE was part of the final review. Where it stands now, we may hear any time that we have an approved plan, specification, and estimate package. And then PennDOT will again consider when the work can be done, and PennDOT will handle the bid process for the actual construction. That's to be in the neighborhood of $650,000 for that, all paid for by the grant.
Does that require approvals through the township for the work to be done?
Yes. That is, when they get their final, they're going to handle the bidding process. They're going to select the low bidder, I believe.
Right.
But then we have a chance to approve that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but they will be registering with the township. They have to go through the organization, the structure, the procedures of the township in order to do this work. They don't come in from the outside and only answer to PennDOT. They're answerable through us.
Well, they're going to be answerable to us through our oversight contract with Gilmore.
Okay.
It's almost like a triad. PennDOT, the township through our inspection services, and then the worker, the contractor.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I interpret it, never been there before.
Initially, PennDOT wanted us to go out for bids and to oversee the construction, but they decided to take it over, which will be a relief to us to have them handle it.
So that's where the project stands. It may be done this year, or it may be done next year. It's on the schedule for next year, but they said they could move it up, but we don't know. The other thing we'd like to talk about is the bikeway project for the Brandywine Valley Scenic Byway. We've gotten a grant, it's $160,000 plus $40,000 matching funds, so it's $200,000 altogether. And let's see, we got that in 2011. We are still working with PennDOT to try to develop the scope of work for that. And it's been through a very circuitous path. The latest thing that we've experienced is what I call rule changes by PennDOT. These are things that they've told us about that we only discovered recently, or were told about recently. One was a 10-year buyback of the design cost. If we use the grant money to do the design, but do not go to construction, within 10 years, we have to pay back the grant money. That was totally new. And in digging into it, it was a federal guideline that was developed just about the time we got the grant. But we never heard about it until the last month or so. So, at the time we heard about it, PennDOT told us we had to give a letter of commitment, promise to pay the money back. And we were not, we haven't written that letter.
Did you go to sign it, John?
No. We realized we'd have to get, the Scenic Byway doesn't have that kind of money. It would be Pennsbury and Kennett Townships. But you'll see by the time I get done this report, that's a moot point right now. The next thing they came up with, rule change, was that absent a commitment of construction funds, we could not do the design. Recognize the grant was written to do design and approved. It's been that way since for about 21 months. They told us just recently that absent the construction fund commitment, we couldn't spend money on design.
Isn't it their money, though, that we would catch-22?
It's a very odd thing. The other problem with that is how much, if you haven't done the design, how much will the construction cost? We don't know. It's very odd. But anyway, so they, for the last 3 weeks or so, we've been thinking about a new approach called the alternative analysis approach. We do 40 to 60% of design and a lot of study work. So PennDOT was supporting that. In fact, when I wrote this up over the weekend, that's where we were. On Monday, yesterday, PennDOT called us and said, forget the alternative analysis. They thought about it, and they're back in the mode of find the construction fund, that is the commitment for the construction funds, or you're dead in the water. So that's where we are right now. In the meantime, we have, Tom and I met a couple weeks ago with Longwood Gardens, because the solution that had evolved to seemed unworkable. That is, Longwood had withdrawn their earlier plans to fit a bike path from Hamilton to the Gardens Visitor Center. Within their property, they pushed that back and said, stay within the right-of-way of Route 1.
This is what I was going to ask. I know they changed something,
There's not enough room to get it in there. with all those swales and storm basins and stuff like that. It won't fit. So we reported that to Longwood, and Longwood seems to be quite cooperative. They said, we want to make this work, so let's revisit the reasoning, which said stay within that right of way. Maybe they got some leeway. So we'll continue to pursue that. But all this business on the grant, they're attaching so many conditions to it that it may be prudent to try to pursue this absent the grants.
We're talking about from Hamilton to Longwood, our portion in our township.
Yeah, Pennsbury Street, the other one, right?
Yeah, there's 200,000 split sort of half
Yeah.
between Pennsbury and half to Kennett. Pennsbury has a more straightforward thing. It's shoulder improvement, just like we're doing in Kennett along 52.
Some of those are pretty good already.
And some are quite good.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're facing this thing without the construction funds. They can't do the design either. So I don't know where that leaves them. So the whole thing is somewhat up in the air, but I do feel pretty good about the meeting we had with Longwood, and we're scheduling another meeting soon to first get the engineering details defined so we can bring in really the attorney, because the issue for Longwood is risk management. That's why they...
I think liability is probably their biggest, yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
But we met with Mark Winnicki and Dennis
Paul.
Fisher,
Oh,
Right.
and they seem to be in the spirit, let's try to figure out a way to get this done. So.
Okay, thank you, John.
Well, the other thing is the right-of-way. If we have to follow federal guidelines, they're really onerous. We cannot talk with Longwood about obtaining a right-of-way without our lawyer and their lawyer present. And it all has to be recorded. It's almost like a court proceeding, where we could go ahead, if we're using our money, meaning highway money or township money, we can sit down and talk about it and resolve it.
So we'll keep you informed as things develop.
Now, do you have any questions for us on?
No.
It's not for now. I got lots of questions, a lot I don't understand.
Well,
But
we'll be happy to meet with you anytime, so.
Yes, you have already, and I appreciate that, thank you.
Bill, we received your proposal.
Good.
I think we plan to look at it or act on it at our regular meeting on the 18th.
Good. The communications committee can bring to you a project that is a lot less money than what these guys are talking about. And you can do it. And we can do it in a couple of weeks.
Where are you going to put the screen there?
The screen's gonna be over there, the documentation's gonna be there, and we'll have a new, better LCD there. And the decision the supervisors do have to come to is whether or not you wanna take the video option.
And that's $3,600.
And that's 36, but that's
That's
included in
not
the
the
price
price
of
of bank, though, is it?
$27,057.
That doesn't break the bank, does it?
Doesn't break the bank. A lot cheaper than what we thought.
Yeah.
So, but I think everything's there. If you have any questions, let us know.
Okay, I took a quick look at it.
Okay, good.
Okay, anything else, anyone? Before Guffey throws us out? Thank you. We are adjourned.